Hello, in this tutorial, we're going to make a Lambda that gets triggered whenever we upload files into an S3 bucket. So I drew a little diagram for you guys over here. That's you. Then we have the S3 bucket, this thing that I drew when the file goes in there. And then we have our Lambda function that's going to be triggered. And we're going to use CloudWatch to be able to see that it's actually running. So without further ado, let's go into AWS and start building this. All right, so first, let's go into S3 bucket. All right, so you'll want to just create a bucket. Pretty straightforward. Give it a bucket name. Yeah, so literally, I'm leaving this on all the default options here. All right, so we have my fun bucket test. Create bucket. All right, next thing we'll want to do is go into Lambda and you'll want to go ahead and create a new function. All right, so go ahead and give your function a name. For runtime, I'm going to stick to Python. I'm using 3.1. All right, so call it my Lambda function, YT. Select Python. I'm going to use 3.11 for my runtime. We'll leave this as is. And okay, we do need a role here. So we need two things. We need, let me see, we need Amazon S3 full access and we need Amazon Lambda basic execution role. So let's hold off on this a second. Let's just go to IAM for, all right. I opened a new tab up and we're going to go into IAM. We're going to go into roles. We're going to click create role. For entity, we'll leave this as AWS service or use case, Lambda. And next, all right, right up here, we can search our things that we'll need. So AWS, Lambda, basic execution role. Okay, that's one of the things we need. And we got one more. It was Amazon S3 full access. All right, now we got two of them. So we got two permission policies up here selected. Let's go ahead and hit next. We just want to give this a role name, something help us find it when we're selecting it in our create Lambda function. So I'll call it example role for YT buckets. I will call it that. So you see, here's our policies right here. And let's go ahead and create the role. So here we go. Example role for YT buckets created. That's our name. All right, so we're back here in creating our Lambda. So we gave our Lambda a name. We selected 3.11 for the runtime. And now we have like this kind of right above advanced settings, change default execution role. And we're going to click select an existing one. Let's refresh that. And let's go ahead and find our role. And you see I pasted it, the one we just created, example role for YT buckets, and here it is. Let's select that. And let's go ahead and create our Lambda function. All right, so we are very close to finishing this. The next thing we need is to add a trigger. So go ahead and click add trigger and let's search S3. So here we go, S3. All right, next thing we need to select our bucket. So let's find it. My fun bucket test. So there we go. We got our bucket selected. Now event type. So this video tutorial is when someone uploads the file, we want our Lambda to trigger. So we just want put. So by default, it had all objects create events. I'm going to deselect that because that would just be everything. We just want put. Put will trigger when someone uploads a file. And then you just need to check off this warning to acknowledge the risk of recursive invoke. All right, let's add this. All right, very nice. Our trigger has been added. And now we can go into our code. So here we are in our code, and let's test this. So just go ahead and save that. It's running hello from Lambda. All right, so I'm in our other tab and I'm just gonna go to CloudWatch. All right, let's go to logs. Yes, and then in your log group, you will see all of the things we're tracking and all of our like functions and services, and we just have this Lambda function, so click that. All right, so down here, you'll see our log screen. So go ahead and click on this one right here. So here, let me run it again. We got a new request ID. Go back to CloudWatch. And it might take a moment. So there's nothing here right now. If we refresh this, there we go. Now it's the new request is down here. All right, so CloudWatch is just going to help us to monitor to make sure this is actually working. So let's now go open up that S3 bucket. All right, so I'm in my bucket and I'm gonna go to upload and we're gonna click add file. We'll go ahead and just select this CSV file and upload it right in here. All right, and go ahead and click upload. Or actually, hold on. So you can see our most recent request down here, 00B4. All right, you see that? That's our most recent request right down there, 00B4. So if we hit upload, we should see that put trigger getting invoked and something new in CloudWatch. So let's give it a second. We have our new file uploaded, and all right, it's still 00B4 as the most recent thing. Let's refresh it, and look at that. So you see we have a new event right here. So that means our Lambda has been triggered. So that's pretty much it. All right, so I'm gonna stop this tutorial right here. I want to keep this super simple, just like how do you make your S3 bucket? How do you make your Lambda? Give it the roles, and then how do you have a trigger that whenever you upload something to the S3 bucket, triggers our Lambda function, even though it's super basic. I'm planning to make a part two or a next tutorial to this where we are going to the name of the file selected here and then perhaps not even just get the name, but also output it somewhere like in a Slack or an email or an SMS or something like that, like saying, hey, test bucket CSV was just uploaded to your Lambda bucket, or I'm not your Lambda, to your S3 bucket. So that's part two. But for today, if you followed along, that's great. You definitely got the basics here of how do you make your Lambda function, how do you make your S3 bucket, and how do you do the trigger. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the part two.